My guest, Margo Saulnier, today. She is the new cultural consultant for the City of New Bedford. I like director better, but we'll move on. It's a position funded through the Arts, Culture, and Tourism Fund that was created by the mayor and city council last year. The funding comes from the city's lodging tax. Ms. Saulnier is an Acushnet native, New Bedford High School graduate. She earned a music degree from Boston University, a master's degree in fine arts from Brooklyn College, and she has more than 2 decades of experience in the performing arts and entertainment industry, among them serving as a production manager for 4,000 shows of the Boston Pops. Margo Saulnier, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jim, for having me. It's a pleasure.
4,000 shows. That's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And interesting, I'm sure.
Never a dull moment. Yeah. And that covers both the Boston Pops and while I was in New York City, I worked for the programming department at Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. So I was there for 5 years. So that those shows also cover that time period as well.
And were you working 4th of July shows?
Every year.
Every year. So you know all about putting on big shows with prestigious organizations, and that's great. What does a cultural consultant or cultural director do? I guess this job is a part-time position for you. So what are your duties?
Well, so first, I'm really excited to be back in New Bedford. And I should say that it's also really exciting to work with the New Bedford Economic Development Council. So I'm reporting to them as the city hired them to manage the fund for the next 3 years. And my primary duty this year is to manage and produce a strategic arts and cultural plan for the city. So it'll be a citywide strategic plan, and we'll complete that in June of 2018.
Great.
And we're about to launch it in January. And yeah, I'm totally excited.
Now, you've been quoted in other interviews as saying the culture of New Bedford is about to take off. Why do you say that?
I say that because how I see it is that we already have world-class organizations, arts and cultural organizations here, and world-class artists. And one of how I see my role is to work with Dagny Ashley, who's the director of marketing and tourism with the city, and promote that to not only the rest of the country, but the world, and to promote what we have to offer and what makes the city special.
I know that some people might think, might be listening and say, what is New Bedford culture? Is it the Portuguese feast? Is it Acushnet Avenue? Is it a Cherie sandwich? What is New Bedford culture? And it's probably all of that and a lot more, I would say.
It is all of that and a lot more. And, that's why I'm excited about this arts and cultural plan, because we will be taking all of the community leaders, not just from the arts and cultural community, but leaders from all over different areas, and getting input and everyone's what is that culture and what is the future, where do we go, what is that strategic plan for the city, because the creative economy is a major growth sector for us and has always been. It's kind of like the arts and culture scene here has always been successful, and it's kind of been an organic success. Now we're going to be strategic about it, and that's where I see my role.
Yeah. You're going to have some hearings or a hearing about collecting information?
Yes.
Yeah, because there's obviously a lot of groups in New Bedford, whether it's Cape Verdean and their culture, Portuguese, African Americans. There's a lot of groups who feel that they probably would like to see their culture emphasized a little more in New Bedford. French in the North End. I mean, there's a lot of folks who clearly enjoy cultural activities, and I'm sure you'd like to hear from them.
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely. Yes, I want to make this as inclusive process as possible, and we do. We want to hear from everyone, and we want to make it a collaboration.
Do you see New Bedford as a place where people will come for cultural events? I mean, in the end, or will the people just here enjoy these events? Do you see it as a place, as a destination, I guess? I know that New Bedford is a destination for some events right now.
Yeah.
The Portuguese Feast, obviously. That's the number one, obvious one. But
both.
Can that work?
Yeah, totally both.
Yeah.
So both a destination with the National Park and the Whaling Museum and the Zeiterian Theater and the Folk Festival and the Portuguese Feast.
Sure.
And to expand that, what is already successful and what makes our city great. And how I put it is that no matter what kind of area that you're creative, what field you're creative in, to have a thriving, engaged, and connected creative community and economy that's going to impact the whole city. So to bring visitors and tourists to the city, and for everyone who does live here to make their neighborhood vibrant.
You've had a lot of experience doing things in the community. Boston Pops, put that aside for a moment. Copley Square, the Greenway, the Kennedy Greenway. You've had experience creating events in the open.
Yes.
More of that to come in New Bedford?
I hope so,
yeah.
Yes. So my favorite project to date is working with Celebrity Series of Boston, and they have been doing these large-scale community projects, and one of them has been the Street Pianos Boston. They've done it twice, in 2013 and 2016. I was the full-time project manager in 2013. It's the first time it was ever done in Boston. We replaced 75 pianos decorated by local artists out on the streets and parks of Boston and Cambridge. And then in 2016, I supported the full-time project manager, and we placed 60 pianos, same thing, decorated by local artists, and it was from elementary school age to retirees, and it was amateur artists to professional artists. And that is where, where communities come together. And it's not only the artist community that came together, but also you have for each location where the piano was placed, you had a piano buddy. So we worked with community, small community groups that were 2-3 people, through large, the Prudential Center, large, the Fenway Park, so it was from small to large. And that's where you have the collaboration. And that's where I see the opportunity, and why I'm so excited to be here in New Bedford, is really creating those collaborations across sectors so that you have the artists collaborating with businesses, collaborating with neighborhoods, where there were many neighborhoods that were successful, but Eggleston Square, which is in Jamaica Plain and Roxbury, the artist got involved with the neighborhood association. They had performances every night. It really was successful.
And you see that kind of working in New Bedford?
Yes.
Perhaps.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. How can And I think you've described really an answer to the next question. How can all of New Bedford share in the city's culture? And that's one way, these kind of neighborhood performances where people can go to. It's open to anyone.
Yes.
And certainly that's one way to do it, and have several around the city. So that would be an exciting idea if it could come together.
Yeah.
That would be a really exciting idea. You're listening to Townsquare Sunday. I'm Jim Phillips. My guest is Margo Saulnier, the cultural consultant for the City of New Bedford, newly appointed. What's your first task with this job, Margo? What's the first thing you're doing?
The first thing that I'm doing is actually hiring a consulting firm. So we have hired an expert consulting firm to guide us through this process of the strategic plan. And they will begin in January working with a 25 to 30 person steering committee of community leaders. And then we will go through the public meetings and meet with different creative sectors in small groups and large groups and begin the building on the vision. Like, what's our vision? What do we want to create for the future of the city?
New Bedford is not a large city when compared to Boston, but it does have a lot of groups who, as I've suggested earlier, might be willing to participate in this, obviously. And whether it's big or small, you've got to have a plan, as you mentioned. This is the work of the steering committee is to create a plan for cultural development. Do you see the plan working in 18? Do you see that plan being used in 18, or is that for future use?
Oh, yeah, immediately. So, one of the reasons that we hired this firm is that, first of all, they came to the table already with having done their research and looked into New Bedford and all of our arts and cultural organizations, and came with data already to their presentation, and they hadn't been hired yet. And they had short-term goals and long-term goals. So we'll be able to, by working with the steering committee and with the public, come up with immediate projects that can be done and long-term projects as well. And that's where I see, I've been quietly, this is my position has been announced within the past month, but I've been quietly making my way around since early October and doing my research and, coming up with just getting to know the community, the leaders in it, and I'm looking forward to meeting everyone over the next 6 months.
It's pretty clear there's an amazing group of artists, museums, business people, and some existing cultural programs like AHA in the City of New Bedford. How do we get them all working together? How do we get them all on the bus going in the same direction? That's really what your job is, too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Well, the how is going to come through this strategic plan process. That's really how I see it. And I also see, I also see my role as a strategist, because everyone is, one thing that I've learned over the past few weeks, that there's so many talented, intelligent, creative people in this city. And the commitment and dedication is there. And it's focusing on what is the long-term goals that we're all committed to, and that inspires all of us for the city that matches what each organization and what each individual project, if you're an artist, and come up with those similarities and those synchronicities.
All right. So it's a planning process, probably a 6-month process. When you get started with the consulting group and also the steering committee. Has the steering committee been named?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right.
Yes, so within the next couple weeks they will be.
Well, it should be an exciting time and hopefully a very colorful, bright, entertaining time in New Bedford.
Yes.
As the years roll on here, Margo. Thank you for coming in, speaking with us. Margo Saulnier, the Cultural Director for the City of New Bedford. Good luck. I'm sure we'll be speaking with you again.
Thank you.